Calvin T. Mann, leading Emmy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to Emmy TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Hey, welcome to the building, welcome to the show. It's Emmy TV time. Glad to be in the building. Hopefully everyone is ready for this show. Today's show is most definitely going to be impactful. You're going to learn some things new, or should I say some new things. I think that's the best way of saying it. We're going to learn some new things. We have a special guest in the building. The show stiller is here. Hetheru, she's here as well. And our special guest, Sister Seba. Right, and we're glad to be here. Where's your phone at?
My phone is in my pocket.
Okay, well, you need to whip your phone out, go live or something. Right.
I'm getting used to it. I'm getting that space.
Right. I'm live on the IG. Right, they said you got to be on IG, be live on the IG. Well, today we're talking ADHD and some holistic approaches. Am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
And we're talking about love.
Oh, so we're going to jam this boy with a lot. So we talking about love too.
Yes.
What's love got to do with it?
Everything.
Right. Okay. So, with that being said, is Dave in the building or no? What's up, brother Dave?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Happy Valentine's Day, and yes, love is in the air.
Hey, how are you?
Blessed. Glad to be here to enjoy this day.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So, Dave, you heard we trapped in the closet on Valentine's Day.
As the man said, I heard you.
So it's since it's Valentine's Day, I guess we should talk about love. You know me, I'm ready to get right to the work. But okay, Miss Heather.
Well, I asked our sister Ma'at to be here with us today because of her perspective and some of the tools that she makes available to people through Relationship First Aid and Ma'at Seba Network. So she's going to be interjecting some really great information, some tools and some resources to be able to help us navigate not just self-love, but also how we can better love our boys and our men. And so we're going to have some dialogue around that. And I'm going to actually ask her to introduce herself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Ma'at Seba.
Well, as you said, my name is Ma'at Seba, and Spirit told me to call myself a motivational healer.
Okay.
Didn't know what that was, but I found out in time. The name of my business is Ma'at Seba Network, and Relationship First Aid is the main component of Ma'at Seba Network. And what it is a program that was given to me to assist people in doing inner healing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, when I say inner healing, I mean go to the core, the root of those issues that you don't want to look at, those dark places, the areas that you're scared to go and deal with. But it's done in a non-invasive way. And I applied this information and principles to myself for some years before I took it out and to share with other people. I also have a prison ministry, which is like my baby. And I did Relationship First Aid for about 7 years at Mount Correctional before they closed. And to this day, I still get emails and letters from the guys that are telling me that if the teachings have actually helped them to transition their life. And one of the most profound statements that I got was one gentleman is a lifer, and he told me, he said, "I am the happiest I've ever been in my life." Now, for somebody that's in prison for the rest of their life, to make a statement that they are the happiest that they've ever been in their life is a testimony.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And just I can also share that not only have I gone through relationship first aid 2 times, but I've also used many of the products and additional services that my aunt also offers. So and I know, I'm not sure she's going to talk about this, but from the bath salts, which are amazingly healing, especially I know that they're directed towards teachers and healers too. So if there are teachers out there and you're in the classroom and you're trying to, connect with some tools and some holistic ways to be able to reduce that level of stress, I can tell you that there's nothing like, look at the hair standing up on my arms. It's nothing like the bath salts. Can you share a little bit about those?
Yeah, well, the bath salts, again, were divinely given to me. I was sitting at my mom's dining room table, and Spirit told me that I was supposed to make bath salts. Well, back then, only thing I knew was Calgon.
Right.
And I literally was given every ingredient to put in. And when I make them, I'm guided as to how to do it. So it's a process that actually takes all day long, which is why it's not a product that's available to the general public, mainly for teachers and healers. And what it does is it increases your frequency, because everything at the end of the day is energy and frequency.
Right.
And when you raise your energy and your frequency, then the ability for you to get angered or fearful and all of that, you erase that. So also, when you're dealing with people and you're in their energy field, and the healers know this, when you're in a person's around them and in their energy field, then it can bring your energy down. You also can take on the illness or the attributes of that person. So if they have a headache, you might get a headache. Mm-hmm. I've also talked to other healers that have gotten actual diseases from the person that they were doing work on.
Right.
Because their frequency was not high enough.
Right. And I tell you, and I know I just gave you guys a real big tidbit, and that's the secret sauce, really, for one of the ways that I'm able to reduce that level of stress. Mm-hmm. And so in the work that we do, both in our program and what I do as a personal change coach, you're always connected to other people in the energy field, and you're trying to continue to help them balance as you balance. So it's such a healing, relaxing, and it's such an aromatic experience that it is transcending. Mm-hmm. It really is transcending. And I know you also have other products too. The incense, which, I feel like I have all of those.
Right. Before we get into that, let's get to this love thing.
Well, we are talking love. We're talking self-love.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're talking self-love.
Oh, okay.
So in order to love somebody else, you got to love yourself. And you have to have some tools to be able to do that.
Yes, of course.
Right?
I didn't hear that. I heard somebody just take off on the bath salts.
Well, that is a way of self-help and self-healing. Mm-hmm. We're talking about holistic approaches to do that. So I think that's really important, because when we get deeper into this subject and we're talking about working with boys and men, and especially for teachers and healers, you need to have some real tools to be able to help you navigate those waters. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy place to be. And I know El Boog is looking like, yeah, you know this too, because you sit in that space too as a teacher. So it's really important. So, okay, so we can move a little bit through and talk more about why, some of the other reasons why we're here, and specifically our conversation around boys and men. But this is also one I want to talk about, and you alluded this to when you talk about your prison ministry. About I want to shed light on the idea of being a victim. If you can talk through some of those, some of the understanding and the perspective of the victim mentality.
Okay, can I digress a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you talked about self-healing, mm-hmm. When you are a teacher or someone, and we're talking specifically about boys right now, when you are a teacher or a person of influence around children and you have not done self-healing, then what I call slime, you put slime on those children. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I'll just say a family member shared with me years later that a teacher told him that he would never be anything. And that scarred him into his adulthood. That teacher, she is very unhealed. And that's what happens when you have a person that needs a lot of inner healing, that's damaged and wounded, to be able to have access to children, because what comes out of their mouth is venomous, and you don't know how it's going to impact that child. So that's one of the reasons why you really do want to focus on inner healing when you are dealing with children, because as an adult, let alone their parents, but as adults, that seed, those words that come out of your mouth are seeds, and they're laying on fertile soil. You can heal them, or you can indirectly kill them by what comes out of your mouth. And so it's very important to do that inner work. And I forgot what was the question again, but
so
that came to me. I think that was really important.
It's really important. So we were talking about in relationships, we're talking about in our journey, we're talking about even in our work, especially those who work with boys and men, about understanding being a victim or having a mindset of being a victim. Because relationships, you make up, you break up. Sometimes there are children that come out of those relationships, whether you're with them or not. And some of the trauma that we endure in the midst of relationships. But we often take the position that, I'm the victim in the relationship, or I'm the victim that now, it's somebody else's fault. It's always somebody else's fault, and that's what I mean by victim.
Well, in relationship first aid, one of the things that is stressed is that there are no victims. We make choices every day, and we have to be responsible and take accountability for the choices that we make. The people that we're in a relationship with, you picked them. Plain and simple, you picked them. And if you are picking toxic relationships, then you need to examine your pickers. What is what do you define as somebody that is a person of interest to you? If you decide to go into that relationship, and that relationship is unhealthy, and it was not going to take you long to notice that, you are choosing to stay in it. Therefore, you're responsible for some degree of the outcome. Now, when you're in and I'm speaking for myself, I've been there too. I'm not saying that I haven't gone through this, because I have. But when you are, when you see the signs, and we can't say we didn't see the signs, when you see the signs, that's an opportunity for you to make another choice. Now, for whatever the reason, you decide you want to stay. Maybe the person is visually pleasing to you. Maybe it is a sexual relationship. Maybe it's a financial thing. But you have to own the reasons and the choices that you're making for being in that relationship. And what happens as a result of the choices that you're making to stay in it, you're partly responsible for that. So you are not a victim.
Oh. So I gotta say that, right? Some people choose to play the victim in that scenario, right? So after I realize that I'm in this relationship, I can go out here, and here's the privilege that we talk about. I can go out here and say it was all his fault, and be rewarded and cared for and looked out, and told a total lie. And that is part of your selection process too. Am I right?
Well, the other thing too is when it comes to relationships, when you have children that are involved, and at this point, women seem to be the ones that are more they're more prone to do this, and that is to blame everything on the man, stop him from seeing his children, and society, which we don't own as a society is just as responsible as they are, because society is set up where a parent, and most likely it's the woman, will go to friend of the court, and she can say whatever it is that she needs to say, who needs to know whether it's right or wrong, and they do not treat the men with respect. The stories that I've heard, the stories that family members have been through when it comes to friend of the court is criminal in and of itself. And at the end of the day, the child is the one that pays the bill. At the end of the day. So we have to assume responsibility for the person that we got in a relationship with. and let the goal for both people, but you have to be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually mature enough to even get to this point.
Yes.
But the goal has to be, the most important thing is the child. Because at some point in time, that mother that's keeping that child from the father, if the father has not done anything to harm that child, you keeping the father away from the child because you mad at him, that's between you and him. Has nothing to do with the relationship between the father and the child. They have to have that connection. Same thing with they have to have the connection with their mother. Now, you take it to the next level. If that person is toxic, or the environment that they're having, the child is around is toxic, then you need to make some different choices as far as that's concerned. But at the end of the day, when you keep a child from their parent, and that parent loves the child, and the child knows that they love them and that they want to spend time with them, the one that is keeping that child away will pay for it. They're going to have to answer to that child one day. You're also setting that child up for misbehaving in school, getting involved with groups of people or gangs or whatever.
Drug use, everything.
Drug use, exactly.
Suicide.
So if you don't blame the child, you blame the people that are around the child. And I'm not going to say the parents because it's not fair to say the parents. That's not always the case. Sometimes they're around toxic environments and they're exposed to things that they have no business being exposed to. Absolutely. When COVID happened, you saw that. The kids were doing they're doing their schooling online, but in the background, the teachers see all kind of stuff going on in the household. Why is the child exposed to that? But once again, it is a societal issue as well, and society does not take responsibility for the outcome of what we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. You want to put everything on the parents, and then the men are pitted against the women are pitted against the men from childhood. We're programmed for this. And if you remember, those old enough to remember the movie Claudine, Claudine made it crystal clear about how women are given another man, a fake man in their life to take care of all their needs, which is aid. You could not get government assistance if there was a man in the home. You could not get government assistance if you had any appliances or anything that would help your life. None of that. So when you take a man, take his ability to provide away, you emasculate him. And when you do that, he's going to go somewhere else. He's not going to provide. He's not going to typically come around his children because he might feel some kind of way that I can't provide to them, and that's what a man does.
It really affects them. It was the 30-year study was done about that, and it really affects men, black men in particular. If they do not feel that they're the breadwinner or the head of the household, sometimes they retreat. Like if you make more money than me, mm-hmm. in most cases, men feel like that's the ultimate. But, that's something that has to change. But we feel like that's the ultimate, so I retreat and I go find. And you've seen this in your situation as well. We all have seen it. I go from a good woman that makes good money the whole nine to someone that'll just listen to me, mm-hmm. and play that role. And you only bring this much in. And a lot of men get happy and satisfied in that role. They feel like if you make more money, you go to talking. To me, we look at things as partners. If we begin to look at each other as a partner and understand there's two incomes coming that door. So no matter what, two incomes coming that door, we both have to understand that this money has to be managed. If we don't have a managing system mm-hmm. in a relationship of how we going to move this money, then we're going to have an issue anyway, because now you have two visions, and that is division. Brother Dave, you got something you want to add to that?
I think my sister said it very well, so I don't know how much more I can add to it. We're definitely on the same page. The conditioning, the programming, the teaching, all has governed whether or not men and women can communicate, can relate, and can work together. So she pointed out some key factors that we as healers, I'll use your word, I like that, must, and coaches and counselors, we must begin to teach each other these principles in order for us to be effective. The unfortunate part is that when one is damaged, as such as those who may be in prison, when those are damaged, I think a good part of it, I always said that the prisons are filled with people who are emotionally compromised. where you see most men that are there, since we're speaking just on men, are there, it's because they don't have the same level of emotional intelligence needed for them to operate effectively. So they are more reactive than proactive. And what the sister's teaching us here is about teaching our men to be more proactive by giving them knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in order for them to be able to move accordingly. And that's a lifelong process. When you have someone who's been compromised for 50 years, that's 18,250 days. That's a lot of programming. And if it's in a negative format, obviously they're not going to be able to move accordingly. So it requires us, as we have good fathers only, and encouragement young, catching our young people, or young men, or young boys, if you will, early. As I always told Calvin, you can't be an effective father unless you're an effective man. So we're putting the cart before the horse. So we expect boys at 16 to perform at a certain high level, like they're 36, chronological age, right? But realistically, some of these 16-year-olds are still 8-year-olds. And if they come from damaged homes who have been emotionally compromised, they're going to be more reactive than proactive. So it's essential for us to be able to teach this level. This is why I'm such a big promoter of the component of emotional intelligence. Because once we can teach people how to govern their emotions, then we can move to help them develop psychologically. And from that psychological development, we can teach them how to develop spiritually, which I think is first. But I try to be socially conscious and, appropriate in that, because sometimes we talk about spirituality, people have different views on it. So, but primarily people are accepting to, hey, we need to get it mentally, physically, and emotionally together. So I think building those 4 foundations are essential. And she had brought up about energy. Many people are not aware. I know Heather spoke about it sometime back in one of our shows. That's another aspect. But all these things that we are presenting is the word tells us, my people destroy because of lack of knowledge. Once we get people who are teachers to help people become students, and I always try to teach on my own shows that it's important that we always remain being students, develop to become disciples or followers, so that we be ready for the day of leadership. And this is what Calvin teaches us all the time. In our EMIY Encouragement Young, we teach our young boys that leadership is so important. But you can't be a good leader unless you're one who could be a good follower. And that follower sometimes is looked upon as a subordinate role. That's okay. But sometimes we have to humble ourselves in order to prepare ourselves. If I don't have ears to hear, then I'm not going to be able to take in the knowledge necessary, get in the listening activity involved, to be able to develop and mature. So obviously a man becomes, a young man has a child. He don't understand his own emotions, as she said. He don't understand his own emotions. So he's frustrated. He's filled with a bundle of imbalanced energy. And then next thing you know, he has a girl who had a child. She don't understand what she's got going on. And for you just got a combustion of energy that's going to explode. So we have false, it's like, I'll use this real fast. It's like Mike Tyson. Everybody expect Mike Tyson to be so appropriate, but he was only 20 years old when he became a champion. How could you expect a man who was living on the streets most of his life to perform and be appropriate as an adult when he was still a child, and a child mentally and emotionally who had a physical body of an adult, but mentally and emotionally, he was not stable. So all his behavior going on, and then when the vultures showed back up, that he was dealing with from the streets from the get-go after Costa-Mato died. Next thing you know, he started acting out. What did he do? He got married to Robert Givens, who too was compromised. As you said about toxic people, her mother was compromised because she was toxic, passing that ill on. So their relationship was already challenged. Thank goodness it wasn't a fact that they had a child to bring into the world, because that might have spun some things off too. It's only presently now through life experience and life over course of time that Mike is kind of getting it together. And I use him because he's a big public figure. And this is what we see. So if you put more public figures in front of them who are mostly compromised, obviously they too are going to pass that toxic energy out there. And what we have, as I said, a combustion of negativity.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. So, Miss Heather?
Yes.
We're at the point of the juncture that we most definitely cue up the commercial, and then we'll move into some of the tools about ADHD and some of those products, because I find it very, very, as we're going forward, we got more things coming. I was saying that sooner or later we're gonna need 2 hours, right? Because our time gets by. Maud, you in here preaching today, and it's so important because a lot of people, as you well know, if we was talking, about some other stuff, if we was on here just talking about sex, maybe it's 50,000 people on, right? Because as soon as you say sex, you find a lot of mature or immature people that, they're experts in sex, and so they jump on. They like talking about it. You see a lot of everybody want to talk about how great they are, right? And you come to find out that, it's more to relationships than sex. Sex is a portion of it. It's a nice portion of it. It's delicious. It's great. But more importantly, having a healthy relationship is even better because then the sex really pops. That's all I'm saying. Anyway. Thank you, Bud. Anyway, we queued up. 1 second. So what is while we are doing our thing, what is your favorite thing about love?
At this age now, it's an interesting question. Love is an opportunity to feel all emotions and be vulnerable enough to feel them. Where typically we only want the feel-good stuff, but we don't want the other half. But you can love someone deeply, and we all have. It could be a grandparent, and then you lose them. So we get to experience extremes in all aspects of that word. And that word is defined differently to each person. But to me, it's the greatest opportunity to experience every emotion that we have. Also, looked at from a different perspective, love is what people define as love, I say, is really the desire for unification of the whole, to unify with the source or God or whatever words you want to put on it. And that's why we feel happiest in groups. When people are in groups and that group is a harmonious group, everybody loves it. So, and then you start to feel whole. And that's why people are drawn to groups, which could be, if it's negative, it could be gangs, organizations. But you're drawn towards a group. And what that really is, in its core to me, is the desire to feel the connectedness, the oneness with the all, which is what we are. But we have separated ourselves from it. It is not separate from us. It's like I'm one drop in the ocean. I cannot not be part of the ocean because I'm one drop of the ocean. I cannot not be part of my mother. I'm from my mother. So to me, if love is looked at from a different perspective instead of what society has told us that it is, then our outcomes for relationships and situations might be a little bit different. And that's something that I challenge everybody to do, is in every aspect of your life, challenge yourself about where'd you get that from? What is spirituality? Who define what that is? So we need to be clear, and maybe we need to redefine these words, and maybe these words are part of the things that has us enslaved to certain degrees.
That's what it is.
And programmed.
Yes, that's what it is. I'm big on words.
So we have to come out of the program, but you don't know that you're programmed until somebody brings certain things to your attention.
And now to the sponsor. WeStandWithGod.com. Thank you very much. And so we continue.
Okay, so one of the other reasons why I asked my aunt to join us is because of her background and her family's connection to holistic health and holistic practices, and some of the things that maybe you've seen over the years when families come in to try to find alternative ways to support their boys. So in particular, we know that a lot of families deal with ADHD. And so what are some of the experiences that you may have had and have had with customers or even people that you've coached and supported that they've had with their boys, their sons?
Well, when they're told their child has ADD or ADHD, my thing is, do you even know what that is? Or are you just going by what somebody told you? Now, I've had customers that brought the children in, and they say that the school said, or whoever, the counselor, whoever said that they had ADD or ADHD, and what can I do about it? Now, the child's in the store, and I'm looking at the child, and, they might be, walking around looking at things, and I said, that child, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, psychologist, I'm none of that, but I'm observing this child, and to me, there's nothing wrong with that child. I said, the child is just not challenged enough. You can't teach these young people 1 + 1 = 2. As soon as you say 1 +, they got it. Their mind is working as fast as a computer. And so if we were in a lecture and the person who's giving the lecture was talking monotone and slow as molasses. Now, you got to sit there for 2 hours and listen to that. You cannot tell me that you're not going to start squirming around in your seat, looking on your phone, looking at the watch. You're going to start doing something because it's like, I can't take this. A lot of times that's what's wrong with the children. They're not challenged. So I said, look, go and either ask the teacher, depending on what kind of teacher that you have, ask the teacher when they finish their work, can you give them some additional work on a higher level? And have them be like to assist you. Give them something else to do. And invariably, that usually resolves it. Now, we did have some products that were specifically made that are natural for a child that does have some challenges, because I've seen some children that came in there and they really, as they say, were off the chain. I mean, just running back and forth, just touching everything, nonstop. Okay, that child has some challenges, clearly. The other ones, from what I observed, do not. Also, there is a chiropractor that we used to work with a while back, and he told us that they did a study, and I think they did a study of 100 children that allegedly had ADD, ADHD, whichever. And they come to find out that every single one of them had the exact same misalignment in their spine. And he said what it was. I don't know what the numbers are, but he told us which one it was. He said every single one of them. And he said it's just a minor manipulation of the spine to make sure that the spine is back correctly. He said, but apparently the way that they're delivering children, he thinks that has something to do with why their spine is misaligned when they're born. Something else to look at is the child's diet. Most children nowadays' diet is horrendous. They give them sugar and then some more sugar and then some more sugar.
Ding, 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 ding. Boom, 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 boom.
Exactly. So, begin to examine the diet. Mm-hmm. If you eliminate these are like curse words. Eliminate the sugar from the diet, eliminate the fast food, the junk food, the snack food, and give it to them in moderation or an alternative. Now, when I say eliminate sugar, that includes French fries and potatoes, chips, because white potatoes convert to sugar in the body. It's the same thing.
That's criminal.
I know.
That's criminal.
So So does alcohol. Alcohol converts to sugar in the body too. So if you want to start to change your diet, of course it's for adults, but if you want to change your diet, then these are some of the things that you have to look
I
at.
have to let go of potato chips.
Well, listen.
Can I have red skin potato chips? Or...
Well, the meat is still white. The skin is red, but the meat is white. So it still has the starch in there. And trust me when I tell you, that is my favorite food in the whole world. Is potatoes
chips and French fries
and potatoes with onions.
Yes.
So
yes.
So
moderation.
In moderation,
we can do moderation.
Everything in moderation.
Okay, I done heard this word one too many times. What does moderation look like? Please explain moderation.
Okay, so let's say, for instance, 7 days a week, and a person would eat. Let's say they're a fast food, junk food eater, or a Southern cooker. And you have potatoes maybe 5 of those 7 days, and maybe 2 of the meals. Now that includes snacks, so that could be potato chips. Now sugar, because it converts to sugar in the body, so that means your pops and your juices that are, most of them are not 100% juice. Kool-Aid. I know. They're looking at each other here. They're looking at each other.
Come on with it.
So let's say you do that 5 days a week, and you do those things. You eat those things twice a day. So that's 10 meals. So what if you cut it down in moderation? If you're a cold turkey kind of person, then you can just cut it out. If you're not, transition your body out of it. So let's say, for instance, you're doing it 5 days a week. So you either cut down, instead of having the white potatoes or the snacks and the sugar, 2 meals, make it 1. And then start to cut that down so that you're doing it once a day for 5 days out of the week. And then continue to cut that down. And then once you get to maybe start to reduce it to 4 days a week, then 3 days a week. But in the midst of that, look for alternatives. So instead of eating white potatoes, they have sweet potato fries now. There is a ton of websites online with vegetarian and vegan options that are excellent.
So I got to throw this in there because I love the way you just laid out moderation. Right? I needed that. I needed to hear that. Do you know these kids have hot fries diets? The kids go to school in the morning. They go to the school. They stop at the party store. The parents pull up the party store. The car smelling like weed. They run in. They got the munchies, so they get hot fries and pop. Then they go to school, and they sit in class. The hot fries and pops convert to nothing. And now you got a kid falling asleep, putting their head down, anger, the whole nine, because we don't do the research to know what's in that stuff. The other thing about that part about that you're making about the diet, when a few years back had a young man help change his diet, had ADHD, talk about this all the time. Reason why we get the boys in the gym around them, exercise. Exercise is very, very important to changing the emotional and the mental aspects. When the body and the mind lines up, you get a better kid, you get a better student, you get a better adult, you get a better person. So I just wanted to throw that into your mix. I appreciate the moderation. I almost do the shoulder shake.
The other thing too is when you buy these children it's not food, it's something to put in their mouth. When you buy that for them, they have not gotten any nutrients. Okay, the body, food is medicine. That's the only purpose for it. But we have it where food is pleasure. That's what we eat it for pleasure. That's not what it's for. It's for nutrients.
Sure?
I know.
Come on, moderation.
I feel the pain with you, trust me.
Come on, moderation.
But food is your medicine.
Right.
If you think about it, how does your body get the vitamins and the minerals and amino acids and the protein that it needs? Where's it getting it from?
Right.
You get it from the food. The food has the nutrients in there to feed the body so the body can function properly. So if the children are not getting the things that the body has to have, they're getting all this junk food. The fries and stuff are cooked with typically some type of oil, which is not a healthy oil, or they have trans fats in them. And that can affect their brain activity and their brain function because they're not getting what the body has to have to feed the brain.
Come on, sister.
They're not drinking water. They drink pop from sun up to sundown. They're not drinking water. The body is 70% water and the brain is 80% water. If you're not giving the body the water, then it's going to take it from somewhere else. And where is it taking it from?
Woo!
So we're walking around, we're supposed to be grapes, and we're walking around as raisins.
Wow.
And you're expected to function properly. And that includes us, too, as adults.
Yes.
Got my hair standing up on my arms again.
Yes, I needed that. Now I know what moderation looks like.
Yeah, I mean,
I know how to practice it. You know, it's hard for you to look for moderation when the person has an addiction in itself. I'm saying moderation. Let's be moderation and.
I hope the person who you're talking about is nowhere near you. That might make Valentine's Day very difficult for you.
but you know how to deal with addictions?
Yes, tell us.
So when you give the children all of this stuff, they're addicts too.
Yes.
Everybody's an addict. They just not going to acknowledge it.
Yes.
You could be addicted to macaroni and cheese. You could be addicted to ribs and chicken.
Oh.
If you think about it and your hands start shaking, you're an addict.
Oh man.
But to start to eliminate those things as you detox. You have to cleanse. You can do that from herbs, of course, water, exercise, and the sweating. Changing your diet so that you're really getting the nutrients, and making sure that your colon is clean. I give the example that your body is your temple, it's your house. And if you are 30 years old, you live in a house for 30 years and you have never cleaned it, you never washed the windows, you use the toilet but you've never flushed it in 30 years, you never clean the walls, you never sweep the floor, you never mop the floor, you've never done anything, but you're constantly bringing things in the house but nothing leaves out.
Wow.
What is that house going to look like?
A hoarder's,
yes.
hoarder's space.
And smell terrible.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, that's why we look and smell terrible. You go to the restroom, and what does it smell like? It doesn't smell like roses.
I'm going to CVS tonight.
Can you talk about some of the ways that you can go through a process of cleaning and detoxing?
Well, the first thing to do is start to alter your diet, which is what we're just speaking about. You know, you have to choose. You have to choose to want to do better and to be better and to live differently. You don't know what feel good feels like until you feel good.
Right.
Your body's just adapting all this time. But when you start to feel good and then you say, oh, I feel good. Well, did you think about what you're feeling like before? Mm-hmm. You don't even know that you're not in the space that you should be in.
Right.
Because you've been out of whack for so long. You don't know what feel good feels like. So start to alter your diet. Exercise, I know that's the curse word for a lot of people, but exercise. Water. How much water do you drink a day? If you weigh 150 pounds, then you should be drinking 75 ounces of water. So the rule is half of your body weight in ounces every day. If you're sweating or if you're working out to cause you to sweat or hot flashes or working in an environment that's a hot environment, then of course you need to increase that. But at minimum, it's half your body weight in ounces a day. Now that sounds like a lot, and for some of us it is, and that's incentive to lose a little weight, so you don't have to drink so much water. But it is in moderation too. So if you think about it, they have all these apps you can put on your phones now. You can, the regular 16-ounce bottle of water, if you drink 2 to 3 or even 4 ounces at a time, which is not much. If you drink 2 ounces at a time, every 10 or 15 minutes, you will get your gallon of water in easily. So everything is in moderation instead of trying to kick back 32 ounces 4 times a day. Some of that water is just going to run on through you. But if you drink in smaller increments more times a day, then the body will absorb it and hydrate. Now, the kind of water you drink is also important.
Yes.
We, of course, are a proponent of alkaline water because that's what we do. But the difference between the two is if you drink other water, you can drink a big bottle of water, like a 32 ounces of water, and then you just feel full, like you're going to bust. You almost can hear it sloshing around in your stomach because the body is not hydrated. It did not absorb all of that water. You can drink alkaline water, 32 ounces. You feel none of that because it is, the body is, the cells are so much smaller that it is hydrating the body. And that's the difference between the two. Outside of the fact that the body is created to be more alkaline based. So when you're drinking alkaline water, that's one area that you're taking care of in the water, but you also drink more, eat more alkaline foods, which Dr. Seba has brought that to life for most people now. And that comes with your green foods, your spirulina, your wheatgrass, your barley grass, your spinach, your collard greens. You know, so it's a science, and that's where something that society and our culture specifically has dropped the ball on. And I'm not pointing the finger at anybody because we were all programmed to do what we do. And the most important rooms in your home is the kitchen and the bathroom. Those are the two most important rooms in the home. The role of a mother or the woman in the home, be it an aunt, grandmother, big G-ma, or whoever, the food that she made was our life source. Not only in terms of nutritional value, but the love that was put in that food.
Absolutely.
And so this is when we talk about healing and healing our children. You have to heal the community, the whole body, mind, body, and spirit, the whole connection. You can't just do one. You have to do all three. So the program that you have, whether you address all three, if you're at least addressing one, you know, that's good. But our community needs all three. The fathers need to be addressed for the areas that they need to heal within them. The mothers need to be addressed. That needs to be healed. I don't necessarily really focus on the children because the children will change when the parents change.
Wow.
They're taking on the energy of the home. And when a child is sick, sometimes they're not sick. They're very in tune. They're very energetically sensitive. A lot of these children coming in, especially the younger they are, you can almost best believe they're what you call empathic. And a person that's an empath feels the energy around them. Now, they might not be able to define that that's what that is. But when the parents argue, I had a man brought his son in. The doctors couldn't find out what was wrong. And anytime they said the doctors don't know, that gives me a good indication. I said, okay, it's probably emotionally and spiritual. So as he got to telling me, you know, he had all of these problems. The boy's sick all the time. They have to take him out of school. And so I asked him, I said, is the mother in the home? And he said, yes. I said, do you two argue in front of the children, or do you argue? And he said, well, you know, that's no more than any other married couple. I said, I think he's taking on the energy of what the energy in the home. And then he eventually, as I started questioning him, he eventually admitted that, you know, they do argue and they do argue loud. I said, you have to watch what you say around children, because let's say, for instance, you get into it with the mother and you say something like, I'm out of here. A child thinks everything is their fault. And now they're saying, oh my God, my dad's going to leave. They're nervous. They're scared. They're looking at the mom's mad. The dad's mad. And they take that energy on, and it can manifest any number of ways. And so we have to really, really look at this and deal with this from a deep level. And that's it's spirit, mind, and body in that order. And we are out of order.
And we are out of order. Wow. We got some lessons and some blessings in here today. I guess we can start with you, Dave. Tell everybody where they can meet and greet you at.
You can contact me at drome7@yahoo.com, DEROME at yahoo.com, 7 at yahoo.com, or you can contact me at 608-343-0875. And again, I think just want to inject that the sister presented a beautiful presentation of what we need to do. We change our mind, we change our actions. And it just requires so much attention for us to center on. Again, people are rebellious because they don't know. And when you don't know, you can't show, you can't produce. They give you a lot of excuses, but very little producing. So as we grow and mature into this level of development, as the sister presented, I think that this will be the beginning of change. But like you said, if kids grow up in a negative environment, usually they're going to take that energy on and they're going to act accordingly. So it's so significant that we start with ourselves. You know, as the scripture would tell us, let a man examine himself. And that's very hard to do because most people don't want to look in the mirror because what they see in the mirror has not produced what their brain is all about. So, amen.
All right. Sister Ma,
Yes, sir.
please share where we can find your brilliance.
Well, on Facebook, you can find me at Relationship First Aid. You can email me at relationshipfirstaid@yahoo.com, and I will get back with you.
You hear that noise? It's going off. That's your email. Should be a lot of people. Miss Heather? Queen?
Well, you can reach me at yourinspiredjourney.com. And you can also reach me on my business line at 313-759-7855.
Okay. And you can reach me at Belle Isle. I'll be dancing with the geese. No. So, of course, you can reach me at EMIWorld.com, info@EMIWorld.com, or Emmy Apparel, or WeStandWithGod.com, or TheGoodFathersOnly.com. Or you can just reach out at 313-638-3649. I have to say that there's a significant point to what had taken place here today. It's amazing how synergy works, how people can come together and say things and the things mean the same. You know, it's such an elegant way for the synergy to, you know, show us exactly why this happened today, right? You know, she talked about energy. Heather often talked about energy. We talk about emotions. We often talk about how we feel and our physical. We talked about moderation. We talked about a number of things. But the synergy was in the building. It was very, very clear. And I don't know who has to get this message or hear this message time and time again, right? And I think she said it best about the home. When she touched on the home, she said, two of the most important places are the kitchen and the bathroom. You bring it in, and the toilet takes it out. The shower takes it away, right? And these are the things that we must understand about us, our homes as parents. Things we can't do, things we should do, things we're supposed to teach, things we're supposed to elaborate on, things that we're supposed to be silent at. And most definitely, creating an environment where the child can thrive mentally, physically, spiritually. We have far too many kids, and I believe everyone don't always agree with me, but we have far too many kids in these situations where the adults act like it's okay. When I was a child, I used to say that I didn't like that word, okay. When I was coaching, I didn't too much like that word, okay. Right? Because okay means all right, and all right means okay. And to me, those are the things that do not say I'm great. They do not elaborate on I can be great. Okay is just okay. So think about that. When we look at our families, and she brought up Claudine, she touched on a classic that people look at it and call it a classic. It was a way for us to watch television, and we saw Claudine. But guess what? We didn't do nothing about it. We've watched movie after movie, drugs, dope, murder. What do? Mimic it. Isn't it funny how a society can have a show like The Simpsons go on for 30 years, another show like Law and Order go on for 30 years, right? And then you can't even get a healthy family relationship show to go on for 30 years. It's amazing, right? But I say all of that to say, one, if you don't put yourself, your family, yourself and your family, your children and your people and your community and your environment, we have lost way too many. We're burying children, 5 to 11 with suicide, 1 to 4-year-olds with homicide. We're destroying each other in so many ways, and yet we say family is nothing. I think you better stick with us, because we're going to continue to put a dent in this pipeline as we have for 15 years and 37 years of my life. And I'm telling you, the best thing you can do from head to toe is put your family first. Peace.